If you're here for a rant, you're in the wrong aisle. If you're here for the facts as I live them, keep watching. My name is Amara. And after the latest argument about this, the silence in our house didn't smell like anger. It smelled like stale coffee and desperation. A quiet, heavy dread that's become all too familiar. My husband, David, and I are raising our beautiful daughter across two rich cultures. My culture, my heritage, and his. It's a journey we both chose, a beautiful tapestry we're weaving for our child. But sometimes, the threads get tangled. Sometimes, one culture is made to feel less than, and that's where our story begins. It started at our daughter's christening. It was supposed to be a day of joy, of celebration, of welcoming our little girl into a community of love. But for me, it was a day that laid bare the cracks in that very foundation. My family, my support system, couldn't be there. They live thousands of miles away, and the timing just didn't work. So, I was already feeling isolated, a small island in a sea of unfamiliar faces. I was the only black woman in a room filled with David's family and his friends. I put on a brave face, smiled, and tried to absorb the love that was meant for our daughter, but a knot of unease was already tightening in my stomach. Then came the gifts. People brought soft blankets, tiny silver spoons, beautiful little dresses. And then, two of David's close friends he's known since childhood, stepped forward. They had a special gift, they announced with a grin. A funny gift for our baby girl. They presented it with a flourish. It was a rock climbing kit. A small, gray plastic wall with little handholds, and a tiny figurine of a climber, poised to scale it. It sounds harmless, doesn't it? A quirky toy. But context is everything. Context can turn a harmless object into a blade. Let me be clear. We are not rock climbers. David has never been climbing. I have never been climbing. His friends are not climbers. There was no inside joke about scaling mountains or overcoming physical challenges. There was only one context that made any sense. This was happening during the peak of the intense political rhetoric about building walls. The chants, the headlines, the fear-mongering, it was everywhere. And I am a black woman. My heritage is one of immigration. I am the daughter of people who crossed borders, not for sport, but for survival, for a better life. The joke was as clear as it was cruel. The room went silent. Not a comfortable silence, but a thick, awkward quiet where you can hear everyone's thoughts churning. A few nervous coughs. A few people staring intently at their shoes. The laughter from his friends died in their throats as they realized their punchline had landed like a lead balloon. But it had landed. Right in my heart. They had taken one of the most sacred days of my life, a day for my daughter, and used it to mock my identity, to reduce my family's journey to a cheap political gag. They had effectively built a wall right in the middle of that celebration, with me on one side and everyone else on the other. I couldn't breathe. The air was suddenly too thin. I remember looking at my daughter in her little white dress, so pure and unaware, and all I could think was, is this what her life will be like? Will she always have to navigate these casual cruelties, these little cuts that are meant to remind her that she doesn't fully belong? I stood up. I didn't say a word. I just walked out of the room, out of my own daughter's party, because I needed to hold myself together. I found an empty bedroom and just stood there, my hands shaking, trying to piece back the dignity they had tried to shatter. To his credit, David understood then. He followed me. He saw the devastation in my eyes and he didn't try to defend them. He didn't say, "Oh, they were just kidding." He knew. He agreed they had crossed a serious line. In that moment, he was my partner, my ally. We made a decision together. We cut them off. We didn't see them, didn't speak to them, for years. The friendship, as far as I was concerned, was over. It had to be. Fast forward to now. Our daughter is about to turn 5. And David has brought them up again. He tells me they've apologized. They've apparently sent him messages over the years, expressing regret. He says they've grown, they've learned. He says it's time to move on, to forgive. He wants to invite them to her birthday party. He talks about his long history with them, about shared memories, about how people make mistakes. But here is my truth. That joke wasn't just a bad gag. It wasn't just poor taste. It was an act of aggression cloaked in humor. It weaponized my identity, my very existence, on a day that was meant for unity and family. It wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. They chose the joke. They chose the audience. And they chose to tell me, in front of everyone David and I held dear, that I was an outsider in my own family's moment. A political cartoon to be laughed at. So when David asks me to forgive, what is he really asking? Is he asking me to forget the sting of that humiliation? Is he asking me to pretend that the intent behind their words didn't matter? An apology is just a collection of words. It doesn't erase the memory. It doesn't undo the harm. And more importantly, it doesn't guarantee it won't happen again. When I think of her growing up, this bright, curious, beautiful girl who is a mix of both of us, I have to think about the world she will inherit. If we let these friends back into our lives, what's next? What subtle comments will they make in her presence? What harmless jokes will they teach her to laugh at about herself, about her mother, about her heritage? At what point does she learn to internalize these little aggressions and believe them to be true? My boundary isn't about holding a grudge. It's not about punishing David's lifelong friends, even though that's how he sees it. I see it as protecting our family's peace. I see it as building a shield for my daughter. I am teaching her, by example, that her dignity is non-negotiable. I am teaching her that you do not have to accept disrespect for the sake of someone else's comfort. You do not have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. David sees this as me being unforgiving, as me driving a wedge between him and his past. He feels torn between his loyalty to his friends and his loyalty to me, to our family. He thinks enough time has passed. But for me, time doesn't heal this kind of wound. It only puts distance on it. The scar is still there. And I am terrified of letting anyone who put that scar there get close enough to hurt us again. Especially not my child. For him, it's about preserving a friendship. For me, it's about preserving our daughter's self-worth. So, here's the moral judgment for you to sit with. When does the pressure to forgive become a betrayal of the self? At what point does grace become a liability? And when does protecting your peace, and the peace of your child, become more important than preserving someone else's comfort or history? Is my line in the sand a wall, or is it a necessary fortress? This debate is just beginning. For the full breakdown, the verdict, and where this family landed, head to our channel. Search for the Verdict Zone and join the community. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more deep dives into life's toughest crossroads. Thanks for watching.